Hello everybody, it is Emery48 here and welcome back to another Star Wars video. Today we are returning to the Legends timeline. We are reading MedStar 1 Battle Surgeons by Michael Reaves and Steve Perry. It takes place in 20 BBY. Chapter 1, Year 2 after the Battle of Geonosis. On the planet Drongar, Tolkley Tren and Republic battle surgeon Josh Vondar work on a badly injured clone. Zanyat is another surgeon. Lemoth is a surgeon that specializes in semi-aquatic species like Gungans, which one had been visiting and observing. They finished with the last clone as they heard the next batch of medlifters from the front. Now this chapter has a lot of dense anatomy and surgery discussion, which I'm not quite sure I'll enjoy if it continues throughout the book. I would rather just have a story than a science lesson. Chapter 2, Barriss Offee arrived on Drongar to assist the surgeons and watch over the harvesting of Boda, a plant that could be used as a medicinal drug for humans and Nemoidians. Drongar seemed to be the only planet in the galaxy with Boda, and it is the reason for the fighting. Barriss also suspects she will face her Jedi trials on Drongar, although her master, Luminara Unduli, has neither confirmed or denied that her trials will take place on Drongar. Colonel Dark Vates greeted Barriss when she landed and introduced her to his chief surgeon, Captain Josh Vondar. As 5 medlifters, which can hold 6 wounded each, arrived at the triage center, Rimsu 7. Chapter 3, Admiral Tarnis Blade is in command of the MedStar in orbit above Drongar. He is scheming with, but also against, the Black Sun Vigo. One of its former Hutt leaders had betrayed and killed his father. Not completely sure on his role so far, but he is definitely not solely dedicated to the Republic. Den Dur is a reporter and he has arrived at a cantina on Drongar. Filba, a Hutt who works as a supply officer for the triage center, along with his aide-de-camp, Tanisuldis. Filba and Den know each other, and Filba does not seem pleased to see Den on Drongar. Den saw Barriss with Joss, Zan, and Tolk at a table and went to talk with them as his reporter curiosity was wondering why a Jedi was on Drongar. Chapter 4. Den introduced himself to the group and joined them as they gave a tour of the base to Barriss. Joss seems to have a bit of a crush on Barriss. Chapter 5. Usu Clay, a hand-to-hand combat instructor and 9th Fleet Middle Mass champion of the last 2 years in Terras Cassi, was set to fight Fo G, a newcomer to Drongar. Barriss had seen Fo G beat a Jedi who had detached himself from the Force at Terras Cassi on Bunduki, the planet where Terras Cassi was invented. G won the fight with a counterattack that took 3 seconds, knocking out Clay. G taunted Barriss after the fight about the Force and how the Jedi have made it up. She used the Force to catch a towel he threw at her, which left her disappointed that she let herself get annoyed enough for the display. Joss was baffled by the use of the Force as he had never seen a Jedi in person. Shortly after, another medlift arrived. Chapter 6. Barriss helps Zan tend to a clone so badly injured internally that their tech would not have been enough to keep him alive. Zan played music on a string instrument for the cantina, and Joss revealed to Den that Filbo was also in charge of most of the Republic's Boda operations on planet. Chapter 7. There is a separatist spy among the Republic ranks, responsible for blowing up a boat transport as it left Drongar. Den visited Filba to get a statement on the incident. Filba was sad about losing Boda, not lives, saying that they are in a war and lives get lost all the time, but would not give an official statement, telling Den that he would not file a story on the incident. Den was escorted out by a clone, but is planning on sending the story to his superiors. Chapter 8. Joss and Den spoke. Joss wants to get Filba's side of the story before placing too much judgment. Barriss told Joss that the destruction of the transport was not an accident. She could feel it in the Force. Bled was informed that the shuttle was targeted and not destroyed in an accident, which he already thought was the case. Bled thinks either Black Sun has gone after the transport or Filba has double-crossed him. Bled lets Filba skim some of the Boda off the top, transport it through the Black Sun using carbonite to preserve the Boda longer, a process neither the Republic or Confederacy no works. Chapter 9. A lot more medical jargon as Barris healed a clone. Mathal, a representative of Black Sun, arrived at Bled's office with an ultimatum. They don't want to just skim some Boda, they want all the Boda. Den spoke with a mechanic in the cantina who said he thinks Filba is getting money from somewhere for something suspicious. Chapter 10. Zan and Joss took in a supply shipment with Filba. The Republic didn't seem to send them enough of anything they ordered, but it was better than the stuff they hadn't sent. Chapter 11. Bled is playing a sick game with Mathal, setting him loose in the quarantine zone on the MedStar and hunting him for sport. Chapter 12. Zan played music for Joss in their housing cubicle. Barris meditated and remembered a lesson her master had taught her about goals and a mission while on Coruscant. Chapter 13. Joss went to his weekly therapy session with Merritt, which was, as usual, unproductive. Barris and Tolk designated severity of injury and likeliness of survival for the new batch of 40 wounded clones. This helped them order the patients to try and save the most lives, leaving the fatal injuries that would take too long to save, with no guarantee of survival, to die. Joss was mentally and physically drained. This round of injured died much more than normal, and there wasn't any more the doctors could have done. When Joss stumbled out of the surgery room, he heard more medlifters arriving and uncontrollably laughed. Chapter 14. Den showed Joss, Zan, Tolk, and Barris a recording of Fo G killing 3 separatist mercenaries at the site of a battlefield. Chapter 15. Blade killed Mathal, put his body in carbonite and back in his ship, on a course for separatist space over Drongar. When the separatists blow up Mathal's ship, it will clear Bled from any wrongdoing in the eyes of Black Sun. Chapter 16. Barris and Fo G spoke about the mercenaries he killed. G taunted Barris and the Force. As G went to walk away, Barris used the Force to trip him slightly. He caught himself and walked off. She was yet again disappointed in her lack of restraint. Chapter 17. Den spoke with the new droid I-5. I-5 revealed that he had previously worked alongside Lauren Pavan on Coruscant. I-5 does not know what happened to Pavan, as he was shut off while they were engaged with Maul. This was from a book that takes place 10 years prior, which I have covered on this channel, Darth Maul, Shadow Hunter. Chapter 18. Joss walked in on Tolk while she was changing, as she never put the in-use light on. He was embarrassed, and she said, "Did I forget to put the light on?" He is heavily overthinking this entire situation, as he doesn't know if she likes him or if she knows he likes her. Combine this with his culture frowning upon relationships with people from a different planet. Chapter 19. Joss reminisced on his days as a med student after losing his last patient for the day. Even though the surgery was successful, the patient still died. He had managed to save 5 clones that day, but he was still hung up on losing the last one. Joss told a clone that the one that had been in surgery didn't make it. Barris could feel the sadness the clone hid. Barris and Joss spoke about it after the clone left. Joss was shocked to learn that clones mourned, as he had been told that was taken out of them when they were created. Joss and Tolk spoke briefly, some definite sexual tension between them. Chapter 20. Joss had another weekly session with Merritt, immediately after they played a weekly game of Sabacc with Zan, Tolk, Barris, Den, and I-5. Chapter 21. Bled landed on Rimsu 1 on Drongar for his monthly inspections. Chapter 22. Bled arrived at Rimsu 7 to tour their facility. Fates brought him on a tour where Bled met Fo G. Bled recognized G as a great fighter and wondered if he would be able to beat him. Den planned on showing Bled the evidence he had built up against Filba, until he noticed the odd look between Filba and Bled. This made Den suspicious of Bled possibly aiding Filba in his black market dealings. Den is going to wait to reveal his information until he can investigate further. Chapter 23. Den used a small flying, listening, and video device the size of a bug to listen in on Filba and Bled's conversation. Bled was very unhappy with Filba and stepped toward him. Filba fainted or died from shock or heart failure. As Den went to fly the listening device out of the room, Bled snatched it out of the air, crushing it in his hand. People came to the room to investigate the sound of Philba falling and were confused by the scene in front of them. Chapter 24. The current rumor is Philba was poisoned. Bled had smelled Philba's drink and was upset about the smell, so maybe he had smelled poison in the glass. Joss is in charge of Philba's autopsy. Fo-G was waiting for Barriss on her way back to her cubicle. G wanted to embarrass Barriss as a return for her tripping him with the Force while his back was turned. G scuffled with Barriss for a short time, tossing her into the mud uninjured. Barriss fought off temptations from the dark side of the Force to slice up G and kill him with her lightsaber. Chapter 25. The autopsy confirmed that Philba was poisoned. Bled is annoyed that he destroyed the spy device because he can no longer track it to its owner, which he knows he needs to do as that person has proof that he and Philba were working together. Den destroyed the receiver for the cam as it was now useless with the spy device destroyed. He also hid the recording in a public area so it could not be linked to him if found. Den has decided to lay low a bit and not pursue that story until Bled is no longer searching for the owner of the spy cam. Chapter 26. Barriss meditated, remembering a lesson Master Unduli had taught her about the dangers and the ease of the dark side. Joss spoke with the same clone again, getting a deeper understanding of the emotions clones are capable of. Chapter 27. Colonel Con Doyle, Bled's head of security, has joined him at room 7 to investigate Philba's murder. Caird, a member of an avian species with a bird-like head but a humanoid-ish body, was waiting for Bled in his accommodations in room 7. Caird is a Black Sun operative and wanted to make sure Bled maintained the original deal, meaning any deal change Mathal had demanded was his own and not Black Sun's. Chapter 28. Caird met with Lens, the spy at room 7. Lens is his code name in the Black Sun. Lens is also working for the Separatists, but Black Sun is aware of this and knows his Separatist mission does not conflict with his work with Black Sun. Lens revealed that he is the true killer of Philba, confusing Caird, as he is unsure why Bled would lie about that. Chapter 29. Barriss spoke with I-5, and she now has a better understanding of Joss's philosophical conundrum he is going through in regards to clones and droids. Chapter 30. Lens's separatist alias is Column. Joss joined Zan as he worked on major endometriosis. He had gotten ill after surgery. It seems like Zan was able to treat Endu. Zan had used Boda from a patch of the plant nearby, even though the doctors on planet are banned from using it as the Republic would rather sell it. Joss noticed and was upset, but didn't tell him to stop, just to be more careful. Caird has likely noticed that Zan is using the Boda. Chapter 31. Den recorded Fo-G's fighting class from a hidden position for his possible story on Fo-G. Chapter 32. Joss told Tolk that they could not get together. He took a walk to clear his head. Barriss found him and she could sense his conflicted feelings for Tolk. Chapter 33. Barriss helped Joss talk through his feelings for Tolk. Then there was an explosion, and Barriss was slammed into the mud. They were attacked by a lone battle droid, which Barriss was able to destroy after she and Joss took some wounds. Chapter 34. Tolk, Zan, Joss, Barriss, Den, and I-5 played Sabacc. After some discussion between hands about philosophy, especially that of valor and higher powers, Joss remembered the clone he has spoken with a couple times and left the game early. Chapter 35. Joss went to apologize to the clone for thinking of him as less than human previously, only to find out that the clone had died in battle. Bled figured out that it was Den that must have had the recording of him and Philba. Before he could act on it, Caird visited his office on the MedStar, killing Bled with a knife laced with poison. Chapter 36. Barriss felt a death in the Force. Someone killed by Fo-G. She ran toward the disturbance. She came upon G standing over 7 dead Separatist officers. She was going to confront him until he was hit with a poisoned dart. The shooter fled and she knelt down to try and heal him with the Force. Barriss was able to save Fo-G. Later in the day, he sent a recording to Barriss and Den. It showed him take on an entire platoon of Separatist soldiers and droids. He did take more soldiers with him when he was mortally wounded, igniting a grenade when they came close. Chapter 37. As surgeons were working on injured clones, an announcement went through the camp announcing that Room 7 was moving in 15 minutes as the fighting has gotten too close. Immediately after, the shield was hit by a missile. The shield has been broken. The camp is being packed up and people are heading to transports. Republic droids are destroying anything valuable they can't take with them, including a field of Boda. Chapter 38. Joss, Zan, Tolk, Merritt, Barris, and I-5 took a transport. As it was in the air, the Separatists fired hover flares at the ship. Zan saw the cargo bay entrance still open and leapt toward it. Chapter 39. Den, still on the ground, heading for his own transport, saw Zan's instrument fall out of the transport. Den changed his course, picking up the instrument. The case ended up saving him from shrapnel as he got to the transport. All the medics saw Den rescue Zan's instrument, and Zan was extremely grateful. Then their transport was hit. Chapter 40. Joss woke up an hour later, Tolk rubbing his head. Joss has a concussion. They were still in the air and now out of range. Tolk let Joss know that Zan had died from a piece of shrapnel entering his brain. Lenz was able to make it onto a transport. He had not gotten around to deciphering the message he got that morning, which he now knows would have warned him of the attack. The transport carrying the surgeons was mournful. Barris is heavily questioning her abilities. When they arrived at their new location, Den was informed of Zan's death, and he went to work to keep his mind busy. Epilogue. Joss struggled with the loss of his great friend, especially as the cubicles were rebuilt, and he lived in the same one he had shared with Zan. Joss, now realizing how short life truly was, accepted his feelings for Tolk, and they got together. That is the book, MedStar 1 Battle Surgeons. I have to say it started off really slow, but the story really developed amazingly. The characters were great. A lot of them started dying towards the end of the book, which really ripped the emotion throughout, which you were kind of lacking at the beginning of the book. I'm actually excited to see where the sequel of this book goes now that we've hit the end. I feel like it's set it up pretty well. The Room 7 is rebuilt at a new location. I wonder if it's going to take place there or if we're going to journey somewhere else. Let me know what you thought of the book down below in the comments. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.